Microsoft Ignite attendees, thank you so much for making time for our on-demand session. My name is Sam Weiss, and I'm a Solution Partner Manager at Jamf, the leading provider of Apple Enterprise Management tools. First off, a big thank you to our Microsoft friends and partner teams for the invite to this Ignite showcase. The title of this session is Microsoft on Apple. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to discuss the various ways that Jamf helps organizations that leverage Microsoft services integrate and deploy them to Apple products. This is a journey of almost 20 years that's enabled enterprises of all types and sizes to succeed with Apple without having to compromise on either security or the end user experience. Whether your organization is exploring user choice programs or you're looking to standardize on Apple devices, Jamf and Microsoft offer a complete solution that combines best of breed products and practices that allow you to successfully scale your Apple deployment. And today we're going to talk about that journey from the basics like app distribution and management to more advanced ecosystem integrations that provide more secure deployments. My colleague Bryce is going to go deeper on Mac conditional access and iOS device compliance. We're also going to cover ways to provide a better authentication experience on the Mac without binding. And we're going to wrap up with Power BI's native integrations to Jamf Pro. There's a lot to discuss in this session, and we want to provide at least 2 opportunities to take the conversation further. So make sure to check out our Microsoft resources, either directly in the Ignite portal or on our Microsoft landing page. But also keep your eye on your email. By attending this session, you've been entered for a chance invitation to 2 Microsoft Ignite exclusive sip and learn sessions on either identity or security with either a barista coffee experience or virtual mixology class. These sessions will be held in the coming weeks, and seats are available on a first come, first served basis. So register quickly if you get that invitation. For anyone new to Jamf or who needs an update, Jamf is the premier Apple enterprise platform. Jamf products automate the entire lifecycle of Apple in the enterprise, including device deployment, management, and security, all while delivering an exceptional experience for every employee. Jamf is the partner of choice for organizations with basic to extremely advanced Apple deployment needs. 47,000 global customers rely on Jamf to manage over 20 million Apple devices, including 24 of the top 25 most valuable brands, 8 of the top 10 largest companies, and 7 of the top 10 largest US school districts. When looking over the history of Jamf and Microsoft, there are really 2 stages. In the beginning, Jamf did everything within our power to give administrators the tools to do the things they expected from tools like SCCM at the time. Ensuring applications were deployed and doing old-fashioned domain binding were some of the early expectations of our administrators. However, the mid-2010s reflected a combined effort between Jamf and Microsoft to build an integrated ecosystem, allowing Jamf to do what we do best and extend the power of the Microsoft enterprise stack. The innovation certainly isn't over, and we're looking forward to a bright future together. To give more context and details to these features, let's start with the essentials of app deployment. Providing users access to the software and resources they need to be productive is one of the most foundational aspects of what Jamf does. Office 365 contains some of the most popular titles for the Apple platform. Jamf deploys and customizes these applications for use within your organization, reducing that end user friction by suppressing what's new windows and eliminating IT tickets about default cloud save location are one of the ways that we help manage these preferences with Jamf Pro's built-in settings management. Outlook also benefits from this customization that make it even easier to securely roll out. And I'd like to take a moment to thank Paul Bowden and the entire Office for Mac team for their commitment to the Apple platform and openness to working with the community. Moving from productivity to security, Jamf and Microsoft's close relationship has allowed both companies to create integrated zero trust frameworks. The combination of Jamf's data collection and Microsoft's compliance enforcement from Microsoft Endpoint Manager allows administrators to use Jamf's tools for their Apple estate and Windows tools for the Windows estate, all while still having that single pane of glass into their devices and a singular policy enforcement engine. What started on the Mac in 2017 has extended to mobile devices this last year with the addition of device compliance for iOS and iPadOS. To tell you more about both of these topics, I'd like to welcome our Microsoft product specialist, Bryce Carlson.
Thanks for that introduction and timeline, Sam. Now we'll get into macOS conditional access and mobile device compliance. First, we'll take a look at macOS conditional access. Here's a high-level overview of what's taking place on the device and within Azure. First, the device is enrolled into Jamf as an MDM. That gets the device its encryption settings, password, profile, etc. Any other things that are managed by MDM. Then the device is registered with Azure Active Directory. Through a workplace join with company portal and the policy, that gets the end user their identity and the device ID. Jamf Pro takes that ID that was created and uses it to post data to Azure about the device. Microsoft Endpoint Manager internally then says, okay, this device meets or does not meet this compliance policy, and based off of that, is given access to company resources or asked to remediate when authentication takes place with that ID. What that looks like to the end user is they see the registration in self-service. They kick that off. That will kick off a workplace join with company portal, and company portal will create the workplace join key and ID. Jamf will then ask for access to that key from the login keychain of the end user. They'll grant access, and the end user is done. There's nothing more they need to do on their end. The device will then submit its information to Jamf Pro. Jamf Pro will submit the information to Azure, and Azure will make a compliance judgment on the device. If the device is compliant, they will be able to access their information. So going forward, when they open up Office 365 online or a desktop app, they can utilize that certificate to access the data, and it will know the device is compliant based off of that. So to quick summarize on macOS conditional access, there's a workplace join taking place, and that Jamf policy gives the end user that workplace join key and allows them to authenticate. The Safari and desktop apps utilize that client-side key to authenticate, and the inventory data from Jamf Pro is sent to Azure when the device registers and on a regular basis. If anything changes about the device, Jamf Pro will inform Azure about that. Now we'll take a look at the mobile device compliance. It's very similar. The device is enrolled in Jamf with an MDM profile. That gets it its password settings and any other security-related profiles. The device is then registered with Azure Active Directory using the Authenticator app instead of Company Portal. That creates the device ID and gives the device a token within MSAL in the Authenticator app for later use of authentication. Jamf Pro is informed of what that ID is at the registration, and it sends it to the Jamf Pro Cloud Connector. The Jamf Pro Cloud Connector hosts the multi-tenant app that posts that data to Azure AD. The difference here is that instead of posting information about the device in detail, Jamf Pro is calculating based off of a smart group membership, which is very similar to a dynamic group within Azure, and we're saying that this device is compliant because it meets these criteria that Jamf Pro knows about it. That flag of compliance is sent from Jamf Pro to Azure AD, and Azure AD sets that on the device. If the device is compliant, when Authenticator app is used with that token to access anything within the Edge browser or within an iOS or iPadOS app with Microsoft services, the device will be allowed access through because it's presenting that identity that's trusted. If not, it'll be routed back to a page explaining that the user needs to become compliant and go through remediation steps. So as far as the end user sees that, when they open up their device, they'll see self-service, and if they go ahead and launch that, they would see the registration object. That will automatically route them to the Authenticator app, where they can go ahead and perform a sign-in with their email address and password. What that's going to do then is bring them to a registration prompt. And what that's doing in the back end is creating the device ID and the token that will be utilized for the device to become registered and submit that information back to Jamf Pro so it can post data. So once the end user finishes sign in here, they'll click the register button, And that identity will be created on the device within Authenticator, and the process is complete. The end user will be brought back to self-service, and they can close the app. There's nothing more they have to do on their end. What that looks like in Azure AD is the device will first have its record created here that we can see, and once that process completes and Jamf Pro posts that data, we'll refresh Azure AD, and the device will flip from non-applicable for compliance to compliant because the Azure AD information was sent to Jamf Pro, and Jamf Pro sent the state to Azure AD. If the end user then wants to use a device app that requires compliance, such as Outlook, what that would look like to them now is they go open Outlook, and they'll go ahead and authenticate with their credentials. And what's going to happen is the Microsoft apps, such as Outlook or OneDrive, etc., will see that that information is already in the Authenticator app on the device. It'll then direct the user to the Authenticator app and utilize that saved token that the device has. This allows them to authenticate with no more steps required, and to also be able to access their conditional access locked information because it knows who that is. So they'll go ahead, finish up that process, and they now have access to their email. So what this service allows is basically registration in a very simple, user-centered process through self-service. They can go and get that registration and that identity from the same place that the end user is getting their apps and books from their organization. Then they're using the Authenticator app to get that token, which allows them to authenticate to anything that Azure AD is utilizing the Authenticator app with on the iOS or iPad, and that allows the device to then be registered. The inventory information is sent from Jamf Pro to Azure that allows the device to then be flagged as compliant. And it's really that simple. Once they're compliant, the device has that information, the Jamf Pro server has the information, and Azure has the information about the device. To talk more about other integrations that we have with Microsoft, I'm going to turn it back over to Sam. Thanks.
Thank you. Bryce is going to be at our exclusive Ignite events that go deeper on these topics. So again, make sure to keep your eye on your inbox in these coming days. Moving outside of Jamf Pro, let's discuss enterprise passwords and the Mac. There's research that shows Apple device users are less likely to require support tickets than their PC counterparts, but when they do, there's a good chance that it has something to do with a password. Not only are these issues frustrating to deal with, they're harmful to user productivity, and with traditional implementations could require hands-on IT remediation. A lot of this stems from a lack of solutions that completely integrate cloud identities at the operating system level. If you've ever had an off-network password reset go wrong that leads to corrupted keychains or potentially being locked out of your device, you can probably empathize with this problem statement. Fortunately, this is one of the areas that Jamf has committed to making better for end users and administrators. Jamf Connect helps unify authentication on the Mac by having users use the same username and password to log in as they do for all their other online resources. Having a single identity to remember helps with the core of the problem. And the password sync feature of Jamf Connect helps with the nuances of changing a password in the keychain on a Mac. And lastly, IT admins can use their own identity to log into any machine and instantly become an administrator. This elegant way of approaching elevated permissions provides help desk technicians the tools they need to deliver service without compromising security by having a shared credential among IT staff. The additional logging provides trust and accountability while supporting users as well. So with all of this enterprise functionality available for Apple devices through Microsoft and Jamf, it's no surprise that deployments are growing in size. And that which grows definitely needs to be tracked for both business forecasting and just general fleet awareness reasons. Security teams also often have interest in OS patching and file vault disk encryption stats. Again, fortunately, native integrations with Power BI and Jamf Pro allow this data to be easily extracted and made available in easy to build and understand dashboards. We have video instructions at jamf.it/reporting for those looking to get started building dashboards, and a collection of community submitted dashboards at jamf.it/dashboards if you're looking for inspiration. At this event, we're using Power BI to track booth attendance and sessions every day at Ignite, and it's truly a flexible tool. So if you find yourself answering more questions about your growing Apple deployments, Jamf Pro and Power BI can level up your reporting capabilities. Jamf is committed to providing the tools enterprises need to treat Apple devices as first-class citizens with best-of-breed integrations into the Microsoft infrastructure that so many organizations already rely on. Software distribution, conditional access, device compliance, and Azure authentication integration are just some of the ways our organizations are able to successfully scale Apple leveraging Jamf. Again, please keep your eye on your inbox for an invitation to our extended learning opportunities in just a few weeks. The Jamf staff are in our virtual booth ready to answer any questions that you might have. Again, we really appreciate your time and attention and hope that you have a great rest of your Microsoft Ignite experience. Thank you so much.